Hi, my name is Kristin and this is Kristin Kraves Books. So I am so ready for spring. The winter here is endless. We actually had so much snow yesterday, and I am definitely somebody who is a seasonal reader, especially in the fall and summertime. Obviously in the fall, like more spooky atmospheric reads, and in the summer like lighter, more romantic reads. And in the winter I do notice that I tend to lean more into fantasy than I do any other time of the year. But I was thinking about this when I was putting my TBR together for spring, that I do not think that the spring really influences my reading mood. And I think a large part of that is that I live in Northern Ontario, Canada, and we honestly do not have a spring. I see pictures of spring and it's all that transitional where the leaves start to bud and it's all so beautiful. I feel like we go from winter to summer. There's not that big in between. We've been known to have snow in May, so we don't have that period, so I don't get that vibe. But if you are somebody who's influenced by spring and you're reading, let me know what you consider a spring mood or spring book, because these books I'm talking about today, I don't think they go with this season at all. It's just the books that are on my radar right now, the ones I've pulled from my physical TBR. I'm not going to talk about the audiobooks or the ebooks that are on my radar or any new releases that I'm interested in. These are just the ones that I physically own because I do want to get through my physical TBR this year, make a good dent on it, and that'll be helpful if I can read all of these. So we will get right to it, and I want to talk about the YA first. I think I have 5 YA books here. So the first one is The Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan, and I actually have the gorgeous, over there, I should have brought it, the gorgeous Fairy Loot edition of this with the UK cover, and this is the American cover. And I'm excited to have both. I'll definitely read from this version because I'm too afraid to ruin that one. But because I have 2 of these, I want to read it and hope that I love it. And I've been hearing some mixed things about this one recently, but I just have a feeling that I'm going to really love this. I tend to love this kind of thing. And all I know about it is that it's following a young woman whose mom was a moon goddess. And I think she was kind of hiding the fact that she even had a daughter. And I just think it's going to be beautiful. Actually, Stephanie Garber says it's a breathtaking debut novel, and I'm always up for trying new debuts. So really looking forward to this. Hope I love it. Next is one I really have high hopes for, and that is A Clash of Steel by C.B. Lee. And this is the first book in a new series where I actually read the second book already, but that doesn't matter. These are classic remixes from different authors, and they're all YA novels, which I just love. So the one that I read was So Many Beginnings, and that was by Bethany C. Morrow, and that was a Little Women remix, and it was just fantastic. I will talk more about that in my end of the month wrap up. But this is a Treasure Island retelling, which I don't have like Little Women I've read 1,000 times, love all the adaptations, I'm very familiar with that story, but Treasure Island not so much. So that'll be interesting to read this. But all I know about it is that it is lady pirates, which I'm always up for. I'm always on the hunt for a good pirate story. I feel like they are hard to find, and that there's a sapphic romance. So I just have high hopes for this. I haven't seen too many people talk about it, but I just love the idea of this entire series, and how gorgeous is the map right on the end pages here. And I know that the 3rd book in the series comes out this month, and I think it's called Travelers Along the Way, something like that, and that is a Robin Hood retelling, and there are so many more that are coming to us, and I just want to get them all because I just love the idea. Next is one that has been on my TBR cart for years. I'm actually ashamed that I haven't read this, and I put it on so many TBRs, but I'm determined to finally get to this, and it is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys, and I actually have a signed edition of The Fountain of Silence, and I've heard that her newest release, I think it's called I Must Betray You, is incredible. So I really do think I would love this author. I do love historical fiction, but I have not read a lot of YA historical fiction, but So Many Beginnings really opened my mind to that, thinking that that is a genre that I'm going to really love. And I know that this is a lot of people's favorite book, that it's going to be a tearjerker, and honestly all these years later I still don't know what it's about, because I think people keep it really close to their chest. All I know is it's World War II. So I'm gonna have tissues ready, but this is the time. I'm finally gonna get to this. Then we have an e-arc that I sadly didn't get to before it came out, but it did just come out. And this is Scion by Deborah Fillet, and I know I'm gonna love this. I read the first 3 or 4 chapters already just to get a taste of it, and I was hooked from the beginning. I actually want to read you the first line because the first line is awesome. I'm actually thinking about putting a video together about first lines because I do love a good first line. So this one says, "Another night, another dead body that isn't mama." So it's captivating, it jumps right into the action. The back says, "This is what they deserve. They wanted me to be a monster. I will be the worst monster they ever created." So I am up for this. It's getting some great buzz already, and I'm so lucky to have an ARC. I wish I had read it before it came out, but I'm gonna read this, maybe even do a reading vlog for it, because I think that this book deserves a lot of attention. And then the last YA book on this TBR is part of my 12 challenge, and I really want to read it. And I hadn't heard about this book before it was recommended to me, but I've been seeing this author around a lot lately. So this is Dreams Lie Beneath by Rebecca Ross, and Rebecca Ross wrote A River Enchanted, which seems to be getting a lot of buzz lately. I think it was a book of the month pick, and it was also in a book box, so I think a lot of people are reading that. But this one is so beautiful. I was sold on the cover. That is such a great cover. And it says, "The realm of Ezenor has been cursed." I'm always up for a good curse story, and I'm having a feeling that books play a big role in here because she is reading a book on the cover. So I don't know much about this one. It was part of my 12 challenge, so I have to read it either way. Found it for a good price. Love the cover so much, and I think something about this is telling me I'm gonna love it. I'm in the mood for it. So spring, I'm gonna read this. And then the Women's Prize for Fiction long list was announced recently, and I'm not somebody who follows a lot of literary prizes, but that is one that I always keep an eye on because I think that the choices are fascinating, and I love to see the themes that are through the picks and look at the judges and watch everybody's prediction videos and then their reactions. So I watched a ton of prediction videos this year, and so many people were wrong, and I think that's so interesting. I think the most I saw somebody get correct was 4 books out of the 16, which is fun. So many of these books are new to me. I know a lot of other readers hadn't heard of them, which is wonderful. It puts new books on people's radar. A lot of them sound interesting. So of the 16 books, I've only read one, and that is the final revival of Opal and Nev by Donnie Walton, which I loved. Must listen on audio. It's compared to Daisy Jones and the Six because it does have that interview style and is about a rock duo, but I actually liked this one better. I thought it had more to say, so I highly recommend that. I was thrilled to see that long listed. Then I looked at my shelves, and I have 2 of the other books, and this one is really exciting. This is The Sentence by Louise Erdrich, and I think a lot of people predicted this would be on there, and they were right. And Louise Erdrich actually owns a bookstore, and this is set in a bookstore, so I like that we're getting some behind the scenes, some insider information on what that's like. And I believe that a customer of the bookstore died and is now haunting the bookstore, and this takes place in 2020, so COVID is in the backdrop of this, and I'm curious to see how that is handled, but I've heard it's one of the better interpretations or handling of the COVID and this pandemic that we are going through, so I'm looking forward to that. And I've heard it's more of a backdrop thing. It's not the center of the story, so if you're not ready for a full-blown pandemic novel, this might be a good one to try. And I just know that Louise Erdrich is a beloved author, and I have so many of her books, I really need to start reading them, so this will be the one that I start with. And the other one I own is the Book of Form and Emptiness, and this is by Ruth Ozeki, who I've never read from before, but I know that A Tale for the Time Being is so beloved. And it's interesting, this was actually sent to me by Penguin Canada, so I was so excited to find this on my doorstep. How nice is this, a finished hardback? And even though this is a bigger book, I do want to get into it. I've realized that to get through bigger books for me, I like to have the physical copy and listen to the audiobook at the same time. That's what I've been doing, and it's really made me more open to reading longer novels. And I've heard that this is a pretty wild book. It takes up a lot, it's large in scope, and all that I've heard about it really is that it follows a young boy who begins speaking to objects. He can have conversations with objects, and he spends a lot of time in the library because the books whisper to him. So that sounds a little bit out there, but I'm so intrigued by it, and I've heard some beautiful things. It says a brilliantly inventive novel about loss, growing up, and our relationship with things. So I was excited to see that one long listed because I've had this for a while, and now I am more motivated to get to it. This next one is one I think a lot of people thought was going to be long listed and were disappointed that it wasn't, and this is Still Life by Sarah Winman. Sarah Winman is an auto-buy author for me. Tin Man by her is one of my favorite books of all time, a must read. This is quite a bit bigger than that one, and I've heard it's completely different, but I just love her writing style so much. I will read whatever she writes, and I love when an author writes something completely different. When her books, you can't compare them to one another because they're so unique. So I am so open for that. A lot of people have said that this is very joyous, and I think I could go for something joyous right now, and I just love this cover as well, and I love this author. And I do really wish she got the recognition she deserves, because Tin Man wasn't long listed either, but yeah, I'm excited about this one. Next is one that I received from my best friend for Christmas, and I feel like I need to read it so I can tell him what I thought about it. And this is The Ballerinas by Rachel Kalpick Dale, and this is kind of a thriller or a mystery about the dark side of ballet, which I love. I love any media, TV show, movie, book that has to do with ballet, especially if you're showing us behind the scenes, the dark parts of it. I did grow up in the center stage era, so that's just kind of my vibe. And I think this is told in two timelines. One, we're following a group of friends at this ballet academy, and something happens in that timeline, and then we're many years later and they do not speak anymore. And I think what happened slowly comes to light, so that sounds intriguing to me. It's not a very long book, and I haven't read a ton of thrillers yet this year, so I'm hoping to love this, but the fact that it's about ballet, it already sets me up to love it. This next one's a little random, but I have to read this because I just adore this person, but it's Run, Rose, Run by Dolly Parton and James Patterson. I haven't read a James Patterson novel in many, many years, but I'm open to it, and who doesn't adore Dolly Parton? Look how shiny this cover is. But I actually have the audiobook from Libro FM as well. And what's so fun about this is it says an album of 12 original Dolly Parton songs from the novel. So she wrote 12 songs for this book, and I'm sure they're in the audiobook. So that just sounds like a great time to me. Here they are on the back. Just look at her. Just love her. So I have to read this. I think this will be so much fun when I need something a little bit lighter. And it says, a thriller from America's most beloved superstar and its greatest storyteller. A young singer-songwriter on the rise and on the run is determined to do whatever it takes to survive. So this is probably gonna be a quick read. Definitely will listen to the audiobook at the same time as I read it, but I just had to support Dolly. Love her. Okay, 4 more. My stack back here is gonna fall down any second. So only one romance because I'm trying to save a lot of the romance for summertime, but I couldn't wait for this one even though it's a perfect summer read. It is Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. It Happened One Summer. It was one of my favorite romances of last year. I absolutely loved the hints towards Schitt's Creek. I adore Alexis from Schitt's Creek, and I think Tessa Bailey really nailed the character of Piper. So this one is following Piper's sister, Hannah, and it is a friends to lovers romance. And I just love that we got a lot between Hannah and Fox in the first book. You could really see their connection and their friendship in that book, so you're set up to really enjoy this one. And I love the setting. It's set on the East Coast in a fishing town, so I know I'm gonna like that. I hope we get a lot of cameos from Piper and Brandon because I adore them, and I'm sure that we will. So really, really excited about this, and it's been getting a lot of good reviews. Some people have even liked it more than the first one, which is exciting for me. This next one kind of intimidates me because the writing in here is so tiny. I was flipping through this. I wonder if you can see that on there, but I really want to read it because it has been known that I love a good Pride and Prejudice retelling. And this is The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. And I love that this is told from Mary's perspective because she is the character that is often ignored in the original, and in all the retellings I've never really seen much from Mary, and she's very quiet and keeps to herself, but I'm sure she has a lot of great insight into what is going on, but she's more private and keeps it to herself. And she really is lost in the shuffle because Jane and Elizabeth have a very close relationship, and then Kitty and Lydia are very similar and very close. So Mary, as the middle sister, just gets lost. It's kind of sad, so I'm excited that she's getting a voice in this, and I saw a lot of people have this on their best books of the year list, and that gives me hope that I'm going to love it. And I know there are a few books from Mary's perspective, but I've been told that this is the best. Okay, 3 more. So this one is If We Were Villains by ML Rio, which is definitely more of a fall book, but I just finally got my hands on a copy of this, and I do not think that I can wait until then. I haven't read a lot of dark academia lately, and I really am in the mood for it, and I'm always open to anything about Shakespeare, so this is one I really want to read. I know this is a lot of people's favorite book, and it's often compared to The Secret History, which I loved, and I know that that is a controversial book, very pretentious characters, but I am down for some pretentious characters once in a while, so I'm curious to see what I think of this one. Next is a book from my favorite author, and this is An Artist of the Floating World by Kazuo Ishiguro. And how stunning is this edition with the lime green sprayed edges as well, so I'm excited to find a copy of this. And honestly, I don't know too much about this. I have read 3 of his novels, and this is the one that everyone said I should try next, and this stunning edition existed, so I was like, that is a sign that I do need to read it, and it's quite short. I tend to read 1 or 2 of his books a year now, so this will probably be the only one I read this year. But look, I was just looking at this, and the pages are actually stuck from being spray painted, I guess, so that'll be an interesting task to undo those. But really looking forward to this. I already know I'm gonna love it. I love everything that Kazuo Ishiguro does. Okay, last but certainly not least is this big book, and this is gonna be quite the reading experience for me, and this is Mythos by Stephen Fry. And I also have the audiobook for this, but this is a Greek myth retelling, and this is so cool. So the way it is written, it's almost like a coffee table book or a textbook, but it's fiction, so that is so fun. And there's actually illustrations and photos and prints in here, and I've just heard it's incredible reading experience all overall. And I've heard incredible things about Stephen Fry, who also narrates the audiobook. And I also have Heroes up there, which is a similar thing, and then I think there's Troy as well. So I'm hoping I love this. Maybe I'll get to Heroes as well, and maybe I'll finally invest in Troy, but I just love having these on my shelves, but I think I finally need to read them. So those are all the books I would love to get to in the spring. Of course, I'll probably listen to a few more on audiobook and read some marks and things, but I really hope that I get to these and that I can stick to this TBR, because these are calling to me right now. And as you can see, it's not really on theme. Like, I don't think any of these would really feel like spring books. Maybe The Daughter of the Moon Goddess or Dreams Lie Beneath kind of have a vibe like that, but I don't know what a spring book is. So if you have any insight into that, I'd love to talk about it in the comments. And if you've read any of these, let me know your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to read all these and share my thoughts on them with you in the future. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing and commenting. I appreciate you all so much, and bye for now.